Hello, beautiful beings, and very welcome to the Being Connected podcast. I am your host, Anamia, and if this is your first time here, I am so grateful. Thank you. Today's topic is the silence that you might prefer, and you think that by being silent or not setting boundary will keep you safe and avoid conflicts. But in fact, what you do when you think that staying silent can make you a more safe space, being conflict averse is a huge personal growth prohibitor. When you avoid conflicts by any means, you don't want to get into conflict. And I get that. I don't like conflicts either. But what I see in relationships and in life in general, when you avoid setting boundaries, and this is healthy boundaries, when you want to stay silent instead of entering a conversation and speaking your point of view, that can actually make business worse. So let's dive into this. The first thing I always want people to think about is, what is your number one goal? When you have a goal and you know what person are you, what is your outcome? And this can be in a friendship, it can be in a marriage, it can be in any types of relationship. It can also be with your relationship with your horse or your kids, your spouse. What is the goal? If you do not know what you want to achieve, what growth is it? What common goal are you walking towards? If you are in a marriage, for instance, and you do not have the same goal line, you will not be moving in the same direction. And being married to a spouse, which is totally different from yourself, that can be done as long as the communication is there. But if you have completely different goal lines, it's going to be hard to achieve that. The thing is, if you have relationship, a friendship, and your friend will always kind of put you down or will always bring up the negative and bring towards you to like claim the power themselves. If you are friends, why would you put somebody down? So when you're not speaking your truth and you keep silent, that behavior in your environment can actually become worse. And I don't know why this is, but when you are constantly being super nice to people or you are staying silent, some people will take that as an invitation to be even worse at you because you do not set a clear boundary where you say, here's the line, do not enter. Thank you, but no thank you. People do projections. The things that are hard for them in their life, they project onto you. They see the thing in their brain and in their life, they project it onto you. It can be done very nicely. You might have had friends for 30 years. Maybe you just grown apart, right? It's okay. You can grow apart. You can have different goal lines. Maybe the one person is using you as a litter box, and they have been for 30 years, but now you're just not into it anymore. You don't want to listen and be the trash can for somebody else pouring all their shit into you. It's okay to say, thank you, but no thank you. I can tell that I have different goals in my life. Our goal line is not the same anymore. But to have that conversation, break the silence, and speak your truth, that's the best thing you can actually do. By staying silent and keep staying silent, it takes up a lot of space in your head. Every morning you wake up, You might go through this. Every evening before going to bed, you might go through this. Oh, I should have said, I should have done. It's so hard. How can I get out of it? And maybe it all comes down to being conflict averse. By breaking this will actually set you free. And you're not responsible for how people react to your boundaries or to your questions. I like to add asking questions. For the art of conversation, listen and ask questions back at the person. That is a very good way to get into a space where you can set this new goal line. Are we aiming at the same goals in the end? Do we want the same out of this friendship? I want a friend that I can call and we can share everything without being judged. We love the spaciousness. We love each other's kids. We support each other. But if you have that one friend that uses you as a trash can, and be aware here, that can be a bad habit for the other person, but you changed. You listened to that for 30 years, but now you don't want to listen to it anymore. But now you want to get out of it. But that's the kind of roles you took in that relationship. So for you to break the silence and say, you know what? I'm just not into it anymore. I don't like when you speak to me like that. I think it's condescending. It's not for me. I was wondering, can we get into another position in this friendship? And yes, you changed, so everything changes. But if the other person do not want to change, that's not an option, is it? But how can they change if you have been like that for 30 years? How is that person supposed to know that you suddenly changed? What's wrong with you? We've always done like this and now you what? So by breaking the silence and just speaking your truth, your new truth, you know, saying this is not for me anymore. I can tell that I want different relationship. I don't want to be used as a trash can. I don't like it. Well, maybe that other person could come to a conclusion together with you. You're so right. I do that. That's a bad habit. And for most people, it is a bad habit. You could always also see it in workplaces where in the lunch breaks, people kind of get together and maybe they speak a little about the boss or, oh, that new, and you know what that is? It's bad habit. You usually act like that. And maybe it's just because you don't do conversation very well. It's easier to about the weather because if they do it, I can do it and we can do that together. And now we are on the same team. Just remember, every time that you are not true to who you want to become, and it's possible that you are not that person at this moment, but it's still your responsibility to yourself to set that goal line into the future, knowing what type of person do you want to be. If you are not that person at the moment, you can ask yourself, what is it that I need to do to speak my truth, to break the silence, and to clean up in my relationship? Your future person, what skills does he or she have? And where are you right now? And maybe some of them could be this conflict averse type of person. So you have to train yourself to get better and to have courage to do this without yelling and shouting, just saying, you know what, I've been thinking that I kind of noticed that we have these conversation every time, and I think it has a bad negative vibe. So I can just tell I'm going in a different direction now. What do you think? And that gives the other person in your relationship the chance to reflect and connect with you. And you can have the conversation. It can go both ways, I know. It can also be that the other person will get mad, get offended, and maybe it can turn into conflict. But either way, you will see that red flag. So, thinking that you can stay silent and not have the conversation, you can do that. You might want to show that person the respect and also to give everyone close. That's always a good thing. But when you observe and when you ask questions and keep it to yourself, I mean, when you keep the responsibility on your own behalf, that's where it should come from, isn't it? So, when saying, I can tell that I'm moving in another direction and this doesn't benefit me anymore. So, I was wondering, do you think that we, after 30 years, can reconnect? What are your thoughts on this? And breaking that silence, regardless of what the other person do, you will have stood by yourself. You broke the silence. You said what you wanted to in a nice manner. And either you go together in this new direction, or else you get closer and say, thank you. I can tell that you are offended. I didn't mean to offend you. I can just tell that for me, I'm going in this direction. And then you know. So, closure and speaking the truth, being brave toward yourself. I mean, be the person that stands up for yourself. It's okay that people cannot burst through your boundaries. Sometimes people are so rude you don't even notice. I experience that sometimes. I think we all do. That a person can say something and you can tell that it's like, what? Did he or she just say that? Why would you say that? What often is a projection. The other person is getting triggered by something you do or you say, or just your person. If you are brave and you speak your truth, you break the silence, this can be a trigger for somebody because a lot of people want to just scoop it under the rug, right? And if we don't speak about it, it's gone. But you know what? It's not gone. And in 2025, the year we are in, just enter it now, all the things that you are scooping under the rug will be urgent to clean out. So even if you don't want to clean it, even if you don't want to look at it, you will have to look at it at some point during this year. That's my guess. Because things do not go away by not speaking at it. The less you communicate, the worse it gets. So just remember that if you are a person who think it's hard to set boundaries or take the hard conversations, and mind you, a lot of the things that we want to talk about, it's not that hard, really, is it? If you think about it, it can be little things. It could be change to the diet. Many other things are getting bigger in the head for each day that you decide that you want to be silent or push it under the rug. My point is simple. Be aware that when you want to push under the rug, when you want to stay silent, and for sure there are situations where it's good to stay silent. If you are in a room full of haters who nag and conflict and where the ego is too big, for sure, this is a good place to stay quiet, observe, retract, and never come back. That's a good approach. But if you are in relations with a spouse or a good friend through 30 years, or your kids, or intimate relationships who you actually have had for multiple years, it's a good place to have the conversations, to start break the silence, because when you communicate, that is what builds bridges. And every time you want to stay silent, it builds a gap. There's a void here. And be aware of that. You are not saving yourself. You are just postponing it. So you're just pushing it for later. Every time it gets under the rug, it's going to come out and it's going to be worse because it's been in there. Sometimes weeks, months, years. Sometimes it's stuff all the way back from your childhood and you're taking it out in your relationships, all your fears and all your traumas. You're taking it out on somebody else because your ego wants to be bigger. You want to be good in the world. I get it. When you want to set boundaries toward people that you feel are not healthy for you anymore, you can, one, have the conversation, build the bridge if you feel that it's worth it. You can also say, I can tell that I'm going in a different direction. This is enough for me. I'm going. Thank you, but no thank you. You are not saving anybody by staying silent. On the contrary, you are making it worse. Number one, put your relationship into this little piece of paper. Do you have goal lines that are similar? In a marriage, this is a very good way to know that you're going in the same direction to make things work. Do you have the same goal line? Are you working towards the same goal in your marriage? You can't be different in a marriage. When you have the same goal line, you have a thing to connect around. And because both of you in a marriage, for instance, are going toward the same goal, you can still be super different, but to make it work toward the same goal will always be in both of your interests. The same in a friendship. What is it we'd want in our friendship? Is that the spaciousness? Is that the love? Is that the joy? Is that rooting for one another, listening, holding space when somebody is evolving? Friendships are not about everything has to stay perfect or you are positive all the times. I sometimes hear that. So, Anamia, because you are positive, does that mean nothing bad ever happens to you? And I think, okay, ego person. No, that doesn't mean that nothing bad in life will happen to me. Positive means, how do you deal with the bad stuff that comes in? How do you deal with setting the boundaries? How do you deal when you experience traumatic things? How do you deal with grief? How does your surroundings deal with you going through bad stuff? And mind you, sickness, illness, grief, traumas, addiction, all of these are areas to push you toward growth. So it's not that we can go through life never experiencing everything bad. We can try and stay silent and we can avoid all the conflicts or all the bad stuff, but we don't grow. When we come to Earth and we experience these things, and this is your soul contract, it's a part of your growth, a part of your transformation and your development to raising your frequency and to pull up higher in your energy. And that will be easier for you to stay in a higher frequency when you don't have to feel anything, or you don't have to listen or put up with other people's projection or align with people where the goal line is just not the same. It's okay to say thank you, but no thank you. I don't need this in my life because I'm going in this direction. If people drive a car, but where you have to go, you have to take the bicycle because you can't go by car. You don't have to agree, or your person with a car can say, oh, you can still drive, but I can't drive. I have to go by bike here. And you can have a conversation or a conflict about that. And that person with the car does not have to understand that you have to go by bicycle. Does it make sense? Think about it. You do not have to agree in your relationships all the time, but to surround yourself with people who says, of course, you got it covered. I know that you always plan your trips. And if you say it's by bike, wow. So the question you can ask, instead of saying, I think it's stupid that you don't go by car, you do not have to have the opinion toward others all the time. Listen to what they say. Have the conversation. Ask the questions. Okay, so what does it take to go by bike? Instead of saying, I wanted to go by car. Well, it's not your trip, is it? So I think that in the relationships that we have and we keep, it's important to bring in the relationship that brings you the energy that you want and you need to develop even further. And if you are used to being put down in your relationship, it can be hard to break out from that. But it starts by observing, listening, and seeing the red flags. I sometimes say to people when I do new stuff, and as a manifester, I do that. I can just have the urge to start up a new project, and then I do that. I'm a creative person. Can I do that? What skills do I need to obtain to get this project on the road? Doing this podcast, okay, what kind of skills do I have? What kind of programs can I use? What about the techniques? How do I publish it? What do I need to learn to get this show on the road? So that's what my mind crunch is about. People can say, so how do you make money? I just launched a new project. I've done it for 4 weeks. And you ask, how do I make money? Is that really the question you want to ask? People can ask all sort of questions, and that's okay. A person who asks that is asking because in their life, the biggest value for them is money. The money is the one priority, and that goes back to the episode I did on the little box in society. I have an online business, so thank you. I do earn money, but I rarely and seldomly earn anything after 4 weeks. So for me, the creative side to my projects are very important to me. What I do is I ask, is that really the question you want to know? So that's the conversation we can have there. When people ask a question like, so how do you earn money? It's really just a scarcity mindset that they have. Maybe you are in a position where you want to go do something, but you have set yourself up in a life where you cannot go and be creative. So you stay silent, then you just go do the job because you have to earn the money. So it's not about creation. It's not about being creative and doing the projects that you want to do. I have no problems walking away from somebody when I see too much ego or I see a ton of projection. I see when people get triggered by my person. I know that now. It just says to me that this is not the way we should go. I hope that this episode inspired you to go out and be a little more brave and think about it. The next time you want to stay silent or push something under the rug, just consider, is it worth it? Because the gap is getting bigger. So instead of doing what you usually do, try and see how it can be a little better. Try building that bridge because conversation is here. And when you know more and you have the knowledge, you actually know what to do. Either way, it's getting better or it's ending. It's going to create so much space in your head and in your mind. That's the space and the time you need to think about some of the projects, creative projects maybe, that you want to do. I root for you. This is all for me today. If you liked this episode and it made and brought you any value, please subscribe to the show. Thank you for now. Bye, guys.